All right. I'm pleased to have TK
Thank you
on the
very
podcast.
much.
Welcome, TK.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Please just introduce yourself and what you do, and we can just get into the business.
All right. So I'm Thokozani Khumalo, but most people call me TK.
Okay.
It abbreviates my name and also my name with my surname, so it kind of makes sense. TK is just an ambitious young man. Passionate about service and doing something to the best of your ability. Currently, I work as a nuclear medicine technologist. Some people call it a nuclear medicine radiographer. And I'm based in Bloemfontein, and I'm in the private sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what inspired nuclear medicine? Why did you choose nuclear medicine?
So funny enough, when I finished matric back then, I applied nuclear medicine. To be honest with you, I didn't know much about nuclear medicine. I'm just being honest.
Okay.
The name sounded very fancy to me, and I'm sure to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
it actually does sound fancy.
So I thought this is nuclear medicine, I wanted to be in healthcare because my mom is in healthcare. So I
Sure.
always knew I'll end up there. So I said, let me give it a try. I gave it a try. I got a bursary, everything. And then in last minute, the fact that I was going to go to a university of technology and not a university, I was like, I've worked so hard. I've done so well at varsity, but I'm really going to go to at that time I'd applied to DUT.
Okay.
Because they offered nuclear medicine.
Sure.
And then I ended up not continuing. Next year I did something else. I was in finance. I studied finance and I worked in the banking and corporate sector for some time. And a few years down the line, nuclear medicine called me back.
Sure.
And I studied nuclear medicine again. So obviously, I think above anything, it was probably a calling or God's will for me to go into the field. Because, how else? How do you explain that?
Sure.
It's destiny. So, so I found myself in nuclear medicine. The reason I chose it, now that I look at it, obviously I'm very passionate about service. Now, service can come in different forms. It can come when you're giving service to a customer. You can give service to in terms of as far as patient care is concerned, in anything. So I've had the liberty or the pleasure of working in the service industry, be both in corporate as well as hospitality, traveling overseas and working in hospitality. And I really, there's something about that I get something from just pleasing others. I don't know, and just that smile that a person gives or that thank you that person, they really mean, oh, wow, thank you for the amazing service. Something is and in South Africa, we find that because service is not very common, good service is not very common, or exceptional service. So we find that people get shocked a lot when they get exceptional service. They're like, oh, what's going on, So
It's an angel from above.
yeah.
Sure.
So I think because of those characteristics that I have, nuclear medicine appealed to me. But then again, I get to work with the latest in technology and work with patients and stuff like that. So that's what I think drew me to nuclear medicine, knowingly or unknowingly,
Yeah. I think maybe we'll come back to the service.
Okay.
And you said nuclear medicine is nuclear medicine technologist or radiography.
That's correct.
There is a course called radiography.
So
So I just want to know what is the difference.
What the difference
Yeah.
is. Okay. So again, unfortunately, nuclear medicine is a people say you usually find it in cosmopolitan cities. So it's in very advanced cities. So if you go to London, you'll find tons of practices and hospitals with nuclear medicine technology.
Sure.
If you go to America, your metropolitan cities. If you go to Rwanda, Rwanda is a very good country, but because they're still developing, I mean, I did some research because I love Rwanda, and they don't have nuclear medicine. They're in the process of building a nuclear medicine.
So, which means the equipment
Yeah,
is required.
yeah,
Sure.
because it's a very advanced field. Not in a sense that the technology that you use is only expensive and advanced, but the professionals that you're going to need, are very. You've got to train special doctors to work. You've got to train. There's a lot of roles within nuclear medicine. If I can just briefly mention it to you. Without any order, you get a nuclear medicine technologist, you get a nuclear medicine physician, you get a nuclear medicine radiopharmacist, you get a nuclear medicine physicist, and I don't know if I'm missing anyone. I think those are the main roles that you need in order to run a fully functional nuclear medicine department. Also, the scale of the department, how big it is, or if it's a small one, that will also vary. Because if it's a small one, then you might just need a nuclear medicine technologist, because that's the heart of the of the department. So but if you're running a big practice, depending on the equipment that you're using, then you will need a physicist, an in-house physicist. You will need a radiopharmacist, and so forth.
So, which means coming back to the question of radiography and nuclear medicine. So, what makes it
different? So, in light of that, South Africa is not very progressive. They're trying to be. We're doing very well compared to other countries in Africa when we speak about nuclear medicine.
Sure.
Back in the days, you would go to university and just study to be a radiographer. It was just that was it.
Sure.
And then as time went on, technologies were being developed. The world was evolving.
Okay.
They were like, hey, there's this new thing. It's called nuclear medicine. It falls under radiography, but the radiographer has to specialize. Just like doctors specialize. Then they took those radiographers back in the days and they sent them on a course to specialize, and then they were called.
So in a sense, they were converted from
radiography to and then they were called nuclear medicine radiographer. So actually, nuclear medicine radiographer / nuclear medicine can be used interchangeable.
Okay.
So nuclear medicine radiographer or an NMT, which is a global term, nuclear medicine technologist. Nuclear medicine technologist is the correct term that you would call someone that works as a radiographer / technologist.
Sure.
So it's called, but because we're still in that old school mentality, they were radiographers, then they just say,
for the sake of someone just listening to this, and they're saying nuclear medicine, does that mean that you're working with what do you call this, uranium? And how does that work?
So nuclear medicine technology, what we do is that we use radio. I'm going to try and use the simplest words possible so that even the person who just doesn't know anything about nuclear medicine can understand.
Sure.
So we use radioactive medicines to treat and diagnose different diseases. Okay, mostly oncology, but also anything relating to the heart, to the thyroid gland, to the kidneys, different to the
body
bones,
organs
in the body.
Sure.
So what we will do is that we'll take a normal medicine that we know will go to the bone, for example, and then we'll take an isotope or like a radioactive material, which is radiation. We tag it together and we inject it, for example, to a patient. It will then go to the bones, and then it will show us the bone. We'll be able to study the bone. We'll be able to answer questions, clinical questions that doctor may be asking. Maybe, has the cancer of this patient reached the bones? Because how cancer works, just briefly, is that if you have cancer and it progresses from stage 1 and it goes on, it becomes, it metastasizes. What that means is that it spreads. And the most, not crucial, but the most severe place it can spread to, or one of the severe places, is bones. And then obviously you alter now the treatment of the patient because, it's quite late. If it's reached the bones,
And then, talking about cancer.
Yes.
My question is just running away.
It's fine. It will come.
Shucks. I wanted to ask on why is this question? Literally, it was just I just wanted to ask.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to ask. I hope this question just comes back. Maybe I wanted to ask on. Do you work mostly with cancer patients yourself?
I will say 80% of the time. I mean, that's just a subjective. It's not like it's not that I have stats in front of me that can say out of 10 patients I've seen, eight of them or 7 of them were cancer. But generally, I mean, anyone in nuclear medicine will tell you out of 10 patients that you see, most likely between 7 and 8 of them will be oncology patients. Yes.
Oh, I also wanted to ask what's oncology.
Oncology is cancer. Sorry, so it's
okay,
just
sure.
Thank you for, you must just keep...
No. Because when you said oncology earlier on, I was like, okay, I wanted to ask the question, okay, what is oncology? Yeah. So oncology is study of
cancer?
Oncology is
the study of cancer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So which means you guys have to be very good at that?
We have... you can say that, yeah. I mean, we're not oncologists because there are doctors who specialize in oncology that are oncologists, and we are not radiation oncologists, which are basically, sorry to use the word radiographers, but specializing in radiation oncology. So how radiography is structured, just if you may be going back a little bit, is that you've got the field called radiography, which is a very bad term because it comes from that old school mentality that we spoke about earlier on. But what we should be maybe calling it is molecular imaging and therapeutic sciences, which is actually what CPUT uses, which is really good. But it makes it a bit more complex now because I'm using big words.
But I think that way makes sense because I know a radiographer, and when I ask them questions, what do you do? They usually say that we are scanning people, which is where the imagery comes in, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
molecular imaging. Yeah. So it's molecular imaging and therapeutic sciences. So I like that because there's therapy in there and there's molecular imaging. So it combines everyone.
Definitely.
And then there's 4 modalities within that field. Then we've got radiation oncology. Those are the technologists slash radiographers, just so that everyone understands. Technologists slash radiographers that specialize in treating tumors or areas, patients that have cancer using radiation. So they use radiation beams of high voltages to treat a certain tumor. So maybe again, if we just go a little bit back.
Don't feel free to just go as much as possible. If you have the time, I have the time. We can just go as long as we can, so that at least whoever that's listening to this, because my philosophy is, I know other people don't like it. Like we can go as long as we can. Literally, the last episode I just uploaded was 2 hours 47 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Then I don't feel so bad.
Yes. So please explain as much as possible, so that at least people are going to be listening to this. Say, okay. Whenever you come back again, you can just pick up the conversation where we stopped. Okay. So just feel free to go.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So we said molecular imaging and therapeutic sciences. Under it's got 4 subcategories, or so we call it modalities. So it's got 4 disciplines. The first one is radiation oncology. The second one is nuclear medicine. The third one is ultrasonography. And then the fourth one is diagnostic radiography, which is the one that everyone knows. That one, maybe let's put it aside. That's the one of your MRI scan, your CT scan, your X-ray. They're just taking images, and the radiologist will report on them. Oh, we saw, you took an X-ray, patient has TB or whatever, or indicates that the possibility of TB and stuff like that.
Does that mean that we have more?
Yes,
more
we
of
have
those
more
guys?
of those that are called diagnostic radiographers.
Diagnostic, that's the word I was looking for.
Because I think the diagnostic radiographer, and I think that's really the only person, they're even trying to get away from that word. They don't want to be called radiographers anymore, because the global world is changing, But we just say radiographers. But we have more of them because like we said, they do CT scans, they do X-rays, they do MRIs, they do angiography, they do a lot of fancy scans as well. But if we look at the basic ones that they do, just X-ray and the CT and MRI, let's look at those. So, for example, patient has a stab wound. Man was running in Kailija or drink, or whatever. They have a fight. They stab the man. Maybe it's close to the heart. They don't know. They want to send the patient to theater. They don't know whether or not it reached the heart. They want basically some guidance so that they can operate accordingly. They quickly do a chest X-ray or CT scan, whatever they have at their disposal, and they can quickly see, the heart was affected, and then a diagnostic radiographer will do that. So it's a very commonly used. It's as common as a broom. Sure. It's literally. All of them, you can say, are eyes of medicine, but they are, they are literally the eyes of medicine. It's used very frequently. And it's, the patient spends an average of 5-10 minutes in their rooms, and they're out, and then they move, and they have mobile chest X-rays where they walk into the wards, even in primary health, in the small hospitals, in the big hospitals. So it's everywhere. So that's the diagnostic radiographer. Let's put them aside. Then we've got an ultrasonographer. Ultrasonographer is the ultrasound one. It's a sonographer.
Sure.
They scan using the machine called a probe. I don't want to use a fancy term, but it's like a little stick thing, like that looks like a phone, and they put gel on maybe the heart, or they put gel on whatever organ they're trying to study, like the stomach. See, when the ladies are pregnant,
yes.
They put the gel, and then they scan, and they can say, we can see the gender of the baby. Those are ultrasonographers. Okay.
And that's a radiographer.
That's also
who's doing that, right?
It's
it's a
sonographer. It's a sonographer. But if we want to go back to that old school mentality that we spoke about, yes, they can be referred to as radiographers, but they're actually sonographers. Because radio means radiation, and they're not using any radiation, actually.
Definitely.
They're the only ones out of the 4 disciplines that do not use any radiation.
They're just using sound.
Yeah, they're using sound. Correct. I like that.
Sure.
Okay. And then we've got the radiation oncologist. The radiation oncologist, like I said, basically treats tumors or tries to kill or destroy tumors using heavy X-ray beams. So let's say the patient, the doctors discovered, this patient has cancer. So usually what the doctors will do, they say, okay, we've got 3 methods. We're going to try surgery. There's 3 methods that can be used. You do surgery, you do radiation oncology, or you use radiation rather, or you use chemo. Okay, so, and then they will decide, depending on where the tumor is and how severe it is, they'll say maybe a combination of all 3. Let's operate. Maybe we can cut out the little bit of the tumor because it's so close to the heart, which is a critical area. Let's cut the part that is not in the heart. Let's leave the part that's in the heart. Let's use radiation and, stuff like that to maybe, burn it down a little bit, and then say, okay, now that we've used radiation and we've used surgery, let's then use chemo to try and kill the remaining part. That's how cancer is usually.
Remember that question that I wanted to ask?
Yeah.
It was on chemo.
Okay.
Because when you were explaining oncology, I just realized that every time on TV we always see chemotherapy. Is that the best way, or that's an old way of doing things, or nuclear came after chemo?
So chemo is just correct myself. So before I answer this question, so we've got a diagnostic radiographer. We understand who that is.
Sure.
Then we've got a ultrasonographer or a sonographer. We understand. Then we've got a radiation therapist. Just therapist, radiation therapist, and then we've got a nuclear medicine technologist. And then so when we were speaking about the radiation therapy, then there's oncologists also that work in the treatment of and management of the patient that has cancer, because usually they just deal with cancer. Then chemo is actually an oncologist, or the doctors that work in oncology, they actually mix all the chemo. So chemo is, I think we've also wired into thinking of binary. In the binary world, it's either this or that, but it's never really. It's a gradual thing, and it's constantly evolving.
Okay.
So in medicine, it's good to know or to understand that it's never this or the other. It's a multidisciplinary team, and now more than ever, I think even the legislation and the Department of Health and the World Health Organization, they wouldn't just want one opinion. They want a number of opinions. They wouldn't just want one medicine. They want a cocktail of medicines because you want the best outcome, and you wanna, and that if you do research, you'll know that probabilities, or in statistics, like the more data you have, then you know for sure. I mean, if you did your research on just 10 people, and then you derive your answer and give that evidences to the world and say, hey, but that's not enough.
Yeah, that's not
you
enough.
Didn't have enough participants to say, actually, So same thing in medicine. It's a multidisciplinary team. So it's never either this or that. Sometimes, a patient just needs a Panado,
Sure.
I understand that. But it's never really this or it's not binary. It's always a multidisciplinary team of specialists, doctors and allied workers and nurses that come and treat the patient, because then when you have more opinions and everyone agrees, when you've done a CT scan, you've done a chest X-ray, and maybe you do a bone scan, and you do this and the other, then you're like, and all of them indicate that there's a possibility of a patient having, I'm sorry to use, a pulmonary emboli. Oh, a pulmonary emboli. Oh, let's actually send for the patient for bloods. Oh, it says the D-dimer is elevated, which is also an indicative that pulmonary emboli is just a blood clot. It's a fancy word for blood clot.
Sure.
But now, a chest X-ray told us this patient might have a blood clot. CT tells us, this patient might have a blood clot. We did bloods. The D-dimer is elevated. Definitely the patient might have a blood clot. Let's do a VQ scan from nuclear medicine as well. There. We see a mismatch.
Found it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Then, because nobody in medicine wants to say it is a blood clot.
Sure.
Nobody wants to say that. But when you have a number of evidences that are speaking the same language, then you can definitely then make draw a conclusion and say it's most likely.
Then where does that information put GPs?
GPs are really like general workers. Oh, it does say general practitioner. Yeah. GPs are really like general workers. What general practitioners do is it's your first line of people that you see. I think even before the nurse sees the patient. They come into ER, which is the emergency room, and let's say they have fainted, Quickly the nurses will come, they'll just check vitals. We check saturation levels, which is the oxygen, how much the oxygen the patient has, what's the blood pressure, what's the temperature, and all of those things. They record them down. They get the patient ready. They put up a drip and they put up some oxygen if the saturation levels are low to sort of try and stabilize the patient. Then the GP will come.
Okay.
Then they'll look at what the nurses have done. Okay, they've done this. Oh, I can see this is like this. Most likely this patient is suffering from a heart attack or a stroke or whatever. You know what I mean? Based on those things that have been presented to him. Then he says, okay, let's send the patient to not really. They won't say that. They'll say let's send them to a cardiologist. Let's have a specialist look at this patient. Yeah. Let's have actually the guys from radiology. Let them do a chest X-ray quickly. Let them do this. So he's the first person who just sees and uses that general knowledge. Most likely it's this. Let me send them there. They can tell us what's going on. So it's like a general worker.
So is it possible to be a very good GP that you pick up things, I guess, with experience, when you just see a patient in first sight? Okay, this is what's happening. You just take them to the nuclear.
I don't know. But I mean, I wouldn't want to be that GP, because imagine you're wrong. That one time you're wrong. And is it that critical in the? It is critical, especially in the private sector, because patient can sue. So you're going to say the patient has this and the patient doesn't have that. I mean, it's not as critical in this country, but I mean, other first world countries, you can't take a chance. So you'd rather always get a second, third, fourth opinion, And patients now, they know their health so well, they want to get opinions. So yeah, actually, I didn't finish my question.
Yes.
So
I know
are.
we
Okay,
digressed
okay.
a bit.
Yes,
I
yes,
was just
yes,
because the thing is, as you were explaining, I was just saying, I'm an electrical engineer, right? And we work in buildings. So what happens is, in a building, you find plumbers, you find electricians, you find mechanical or whoever that's going to be working, the designers guys. So we are all working in this one building, and we are making sure that it looks the way that the client wants it to look like.
Yes.
And I was just laughing in my mind that it looks like you guys are doing almost the same thing,
100%.
but with a human being.
100%. You see, then it means I think I'm getting my point across quite
Yes,
well
you are.
because
Yes, you
I
are.
think it's
Sure.
exactly that.
Sure,
It's exactly
sure.
that. It's a multidisciplinary team. You need the one, and the one cannot operate without the
With
other.
the other, yes.
You know what I mean?
And
Just
you need
like the plumber. If
consensus.
you don't have a plumber and the electrician, don't think the electrician can't do the job of a plumber.
Sure.
You need the plumber.
Yeah.
You see? So
Yeah.
that's exactly how it is.
So, and all these things are building up towards having a perfect house or perfect
100%.
patient.
100%.
Sure.
That's
I think you were still just to bring you back in
Yes.
the your train of thought
Yes,
is you're just explaining where chemotherapy comes in and the different practices. Yes.
So that is where when we were looking at surgery and we were looking at chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and then we were saying that's where the radiation therapist comes in. They study radiation therapy, which is one of the disciplines. It's the third discipline that I was explaining.
And that's under,
It's still under molecular imaging
Okay,
and therapeutic sciences. So it was the first one as diagnostic radiographer, the second one was ultrasonographer.
Sure.
So now the third one is radiation therapy.
Sure.
The last one is nuclear medicine technology. Then I'll dive a little bit more into nuclear medicine
Sure.
because I mean that's my field. Yeah. So nuclear medicine is
I don't know if maybe you answered the chemotherapy in terms of I just wanted to understand in terms of how does it work?
How does it work?
Yes.
So it's a cocktail of different medicines that are used to treat cancer. You know, can be very, very toxic, but usually oncologists, like the doctors.
Sure.
No, not technologists. The doctors will sit and they'll create these cocktails to say for very patient specific, based on the cancer and whatever, and they will then it's given an IV intravenously. So the patient will go on the couch, and they'll lie down there, and then they'll be receiving.
Sure. And is that part where you said something about pharmacy, sort of?
Yeah. So you do get oncology pharmacists. I think they can assist there as well, but usually the doctors.
But they don't necessarily do the concoctions, right?
The cocktails and
Cocktails,
things.
yes.
I think they can, but they are more involved in possibly designing those cocktails because that's what pharmacists do.
Sure.
Generally, what a pharmacist would do, people think a pharmacist just reads a prescription and gets it from the counter and gives it to you and tells you how to take it. That's a very general notion or a very basic notion. What actually the job of pharmacist or what we see pharmacists add value, where we see them add value is a patient in the rural areas comes to the hospital with the sore that is so weird that even the doctors confuse. How do they have this sore? And you know those things happen in the rural areas.
I know.
They have this sore that's like big and it's got maybe worms in. You know, it's quite bad looking. Then the pharmacist can go back to the drawing book and go and say, okay, I can actually add this. That maybe they're making like a little paste to apply on the sore. I'll add this because this will take care of this. I'll add that. So they then design a specific, so you know what I mean? Medicine that will assist in treating. We see pharmacists really adding value there. But I mean, even a pharmacist assistant can just read, okay, doctor said Panado, and then you give the Panado. But they are more.
I feel like you're taking the job for all the podcasters are gonna be
No.
coming.
I'm just touching the.
But I love what you're doing because I have a desire to have pharmacists and all these other GPs and doctors, and I just like how you're already setting me up for the next podcast. But thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure.
Sure.
I'm a very curious person, so for me, when I step, because for me to understand my role, I think for anybody, you need to understand other people's role. It doesn't mean I know what they do
Definitely.
or I can do what they do. Oh, hell no. But I need to understand their roles so that I can also fully understand what I'm bringing to the table.
Exactly.
And I can respect what they do because I understand the value that they add. To ultimately have, like you said,
that.
the perfect patient.
Sure.
So
Sure.
so that's that.
Okay.
Chemo,
Okay. I think now you were saying that you're getting into nuclear medicine.
That's correct.
So we can just get into
Let's
that.
get to nuclear medicine. So
Okay.
in nuclear medicine, what we do, as I said briefly, we use radioactive and by radioactive, I hope everybody knows what radioactive is, because I mean, if you Google, so you even if you Google, just Google what radioactive is. So it's like an unstable atom, so it emits radiation. Excuse me. So then we use radioactive medicines to treat and diagnose diseases. Okay, we use it for most of the time we're trying to diagnose. So we want to check, like I said earlier, has the cancer reached the bones? Is the part of the heart working? We want to see, because remember, we want to visually see. So what nuclear medicine focuses on is not just the anatomy, but the physiology. How is it working? Okay, is the left ventricle of the heart, which is a portion of the heart, is it pumping blood? The ejection fraction, which is how much blood is it pumping every second?
Sure.
Is it pumping enough blood? If is it not? So we not only just focus on anatomy like all the other modalities. We the only modality in molecular imaging and therapeutic sciences that focuses a lot on physiology. We're not just answering if there is a bone. We took a picture of the bone. Here's a bone. We want to know how the bone is working. Is it perfusing blood? Is it dead? Is it we can answer a lot of questions.
So the bone is alive.
So yes. You can get, for example, if it's fractured.
Okay, sure.
That part of the bone will not be receiving blood or whatever. Or it's broken. Then we know. Okay. It's broken there, and we can answer questions relating to that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So which means in nuclear medicine, in a sense, that's what you're doing. You are just going into detail on the physical, like you said, and
so very much on the molecular level.
Okay.
So we study, we study organs, but we're much more focused on a molecular level. And what we do is, as I said, we either treat. We're treating, there's a new lutetium treatment, which is great, provided an alternative for men with prostate cancer.
Okay, sure.
Because they didn't have a lot of options or alternatives when it comes to there wasn't very good prognosis for prostate cancer patients. But now there's lutetium treatment, which was recently passed by the FDA, and nuclear medicine. We administer and we are able to offer that option to say, listen, now you have options, because I think it's important for patients also to have options. Okay, you've been diagnosed with this; these are the options.
And also I guess the options is to also tell you the side effects.
Yeah,
so that you can choose which one.
True. Yes,
sure.
Correct.
Okay. Yes. And then let's get to your CPAT day. You're a CPAT, right?
I was at CPAT.
Okay, let's get to your CPAT days.
Yes, let's get into them days. Yes.
How was it doing nuclear medicine, and what are the few things that you need to prepare yourself to be able to be an exceptional nuclear medicine student?
Okay, so you want it to be very specific to CPT, or just for anyone who
general.
Wants to get general? General. Okay. So
the reason why I was saying CPT, because that's where you actually got the experience and everything, but you can just keep it general as well.
Okay, cool. So before I answer that question, I think it's important for us to know as young people and to know as young professionals that the world is evolving. We're going to 4IR, and artificial intelligence is taking over, and that is happening, and it is happening on a massive scale in the health sector.
4IR is the sound one, right?
Yeah. Sorry?
4IR.
fourth industrial revolution.
Oh,
Yes.
I was like, which one is this one? But yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
no problem. So now what we see happening is that even it's actually like it's like an aha moment for me that I'm getting now.
Sure.
Is that even for any job role that one can tap into, it's constantly evolving. The skills that my dad needed to be an engineer are not the skills that today's engineer need. Now you need to know programming. You need to know how to code as an engineer. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You need to know the new, like you were saying, it's like you guys, when you say there's new equipment, with us there's new softwares, which probably design their house for you. You just if you input the right values, you get a correct answer of what you're looking for. Like you're saying, that it continuous improvement in our fields.
Yes.
So what I'm doing now won't be relevant for probably the next 10 years, or 10 years too far, probably 5 years. Yeah.
So now what we also, with that, exactly what you're saying, what we're seeing is an overlap of careers. So a electrical engineer is slightly overlapping with a programmer. And a programmer is mostly slightly overlapping with some other role. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, so what we see roles overlapping a lot. We see them overlapping. So I think it's important even for somebody when they choose a career field to also always constantly have that in mind. So it's also good to read and just to know and whatever. But it's constantly evolving. So nuclear medicine itself is evolving a lot. When I started nuclear medicine, some of the things that we're doing now, actinium, we're not even spoken about. I don't remember anybody telling me about it. When I stepped into the field, they were like, there's this doctor coming from Germany and will be training or giving us a lecture on actinium. I'm like, actinium, what's that? Start to Google, because it's evolving a lot. And then over and above that, it's evolving in a sense where the softwares that we use, we've got to know a little bit of coding as well, because we have to set up protocols for scanning our patients. So we have to get into the computer and be able to figure out, okay, how do I set up this protocol? Essentially typing a program, and then you are able to run it and say, okay, this will image this part and so forth. Obviously, it might be for a little bit more experienced nuclear medicine, but it depends where you work. I've had to do it, and I'm sort of very new in the field.
Sure.
So it's just very important to know that going into any field, that we are constantly evolving, and I think as we move forward as well, we're gonna see the sector or the world of work requiring professionals to really sell themselves, and then how they fit in the role. I that's what I try and do with everything that I've done in my life, to say where can I add value where someone else can possibly not add value, and that can make me special in my field, and it can set me apart.
Sure.
Because you don't just want to be a copy and paste of everyone and a button pusher, but what can set you apart? What do you have that's special there? So study the field that you choose and see where you can add value, and maybe for example, I'm just using an example with me. I'm not saying that's the end of me, but it's good to have a good example, a practical example. What am I going to study? Nuclear medicine. Okay, nuclear medicine. There's patient care there. I love service. Okay, patient care service. I think I can add value there. I know nobody can give better service than me. You cannot outwork me. Okay. I'm just telling you. Yeah. No one can outwork me. You can give me a broom here and say I can sweep. I will give you the best sweep of your life. Whatever task I'm given, I always excel. And I always try and excel.
Sure.
But I also know my capabilities, So I think that's very vital and important. And maybe somebody else could be nuclear medicine. They say they use technologies. They use a lot of computers. I'm very good with computers. That's your niche.
Sure.
So you get into the field. Yes, you want to study nuclear medicine, but you're already focused on the future. You know They're going to probably, as time goes on, they'll need people who do this full time now, who just focusing on, but you've got to understand the background of nuclear medicine.
Sure.
So I like that mentality of thinking when you get into a role, because then you're not, the world has put us in boxes. Then you just think you're a nuclear medicine radio. There's so much that you can do within nuclear medicine, having the background of nuclear medicine, and then you can evolve. And I mean, the sky is literally the limit.
I've had some conversations with students, most of them, and I would ask them a question. Hey, what are you studying? And they would tell me, okay, I'm an accountant. And I would ask the follow-up question, which would be, so which companies do you want to work, or what do you see yourself doing after that? And they wouldn't give me an answer after that. Then you realize that, okay, this person is just living by chance. Whatever comes their way, that's what they want to take. For you, I want you to answer the question in your case. When you started with nuclear medicine, did you know that this is what you want to do? Like you said, that you said care, something about care for patients. Yes. So did you want care. Patient care? Yes. Did you want to do that? Did you know from the get on to know that that's what you wanted to do? And if you knew, what is it that what kind of mentality that brought you to that point where you say, I'm a student? Because I think most of the students that I've talked to, most of them they're at school, they're studying, and they don't have like a plan of in terms of their career. So for you, what made you, if you did make the choice of saying that this is what I wanted to do, and what made you make those decisions?
So first, I must just say that I'm blessed. Okay, God has been a huge part of my life. How my life. I mean, sometimes I see how I got you, and I cannot give you the answer. It can only be God. You know, I just have to make that very clear.
Sure.
So at times I took decisions, and my mom is a prayer warrior. She prays. You know, like, so I think sometimes, even it was through whether it was my prayer or my family's prayer, sometimes I took decisions that I couldn't really make sense of at the time. And it just worked out.
Sure.
So I have to say that, because I'm not perfect. Okay?
Yeah, let's give props to God.
yeah.
Shout out.
Let's do that.
Sure.
And then I think also what's important is that for me, after, like I said, I finished matric. I was in corporate for a bit. I worked in banking, and then I was like, this is not for me. Then I left. I went overseas.
Okay.
And overseas, that's where I would say that's where I discovered my passion for serving, for service excellence, you know, being of service to others. And there's this thing which I'm really still trying to define, that what is it in me that makes me, you know, love serving people so much and being of service to others. And I mean, it could be something in me that's maybe not right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, there must be an answer. What is it and that for me, I think that made me latch onto nuclear medicine, because I knew there was that patient care component, and it was in the health sector.
Sure.
So I said, if all fails, I know that's will not fail me, and I will just latch onto that and I'll fly, you know, because I knew that. So that is just to answer your question.
Yeah.
But what I want, if from this conversation nothing amounts to anything, I want this to be at least a take home.
Yeah.
If you're looking into a career and you're saying, okay, I want to study this and I would love it that everybody just doesn't look into employment, because I think society has given us this idea or notion that it's just getting employment, but I think we should rather look into how can you create generational wealth, or not necessarily generational wealth, but how can you like start a business or run your own thing, you know? That for me, I think, is the most critical question of this time, and I think we're not thinking correctly if we're just saying, how can I just get a job? And it ends there. That should be only the starting point, to say, okay, I've graduated, fine, I have a job. That's the starting point. And then the goal should be, how do I run and I'm using words that are sounding cliche, How do I run my own path? But to make it, maybe to use a bit of a humility is, how do I then work for myself instead of working for someone else? So that is, when you're in matric, that is, I think, the question people should be answering. Not what career, what do you want to study, where do you want to work, or no. And when you think career, don't think that it's a job. Don't think that it's employment. You know, Vusi Thembekwayo said one of the most, I think, important things, and the other podcasts he did, and he said that when you get into a role, whether you've been hired to do a role, whether it's speaking or you're working, you're acting. So that's what you do. You just come. We actors actually. Yeah, we act.
This is how I was talking about masks.
Yeah.
We wear different masks.
Yeah. So we basically actors. So you come here and this is what you're being paid to do, and these are the you have to act and perform. Doesn't matter where you come from, but you need to fulfill these duties. You need to act this role. Yeah. Where you are a murderer, that's what you're getting paid to act as a murderer. You need to execute that. People must believe that. Same thing when you hired as a nurse. You act. You need to execute that, believe that. Sure. You go home, you become a mom. Nursing is out the door. You need to execute that believable. Your child must believe this is my mom, and you must be exceptional at it, you know, and so forth, and so it goes. So yeah, I would really love for so same with nuclear medicine. I would love for somebody to look, or not even nuclear medicine, any role, just look at it. Okay, fine, I'm in matric now. I'm thinking about something to study. I'm thinking of this job, law. Oh, but where will I get a job? No. That shouldn't be the question you're asking yourself. The question is, how am I able to start my own thing after that? You know, can I work for myself? Can I run my own business? Sure. I wish we were asking people more of those questions, because I think it will solve a lot of things. Because
I think I like what you're saying there on the questioning, the type of questions that not only going for which career do you want to do, or where do you see yourself in this career path, but to ask yourself, do you want to go to an extent of actually owning a business, because that speaks to competence. Because if you want to start a business, you have to at least know the business that you're entering, and you have to be very good at what you're doing. If you're an electrician, you have to be very good at electrician in order to do that, right?
That's so true.
Yeah, and I think maybe coming back to that question of saying that the mentality, that kind of mentality, did you traveling overseas?
Definitely.
Instill that thinking.
150%. Okay. Maybe let me tell you, when I went overseas, I went. You know, if I explain to you my story of where I come from, some people would laugh.
Say that again. Okay.
If I explain to you the story of where I come from and where I've been, people may laugh, and it's almost unbelievable, but we never really get to share those experiences with people sometimes. But
please share it on the podcast.
So when I went into corporate, I studied, worked in banking, and I said, I hate this, because for me it was just about numbers and targets, and it was just, I was like, this is not me. Because remember, for me, service I didn't know it at the time, but I was just saying, I was stressed. I was breaking out. I was just CA. No, I wasn't. I was. I ended up being a campaigns manager. I was working for a reinsurance company. And we were working on different campaigns, developing insurances with actuaries and selling them to discoveries and things, and they would actually sell them out to customers. Sure. But our customer wasn't necessarily but we would have to test the campaigns and prove that it's working. So we'll do pilot campaigns. Sure. And then we'll be like, we're able to start. For example, one of the policies. I don't know if I'm not going to get in trouble. One of the products that was developed by my company was something called a gap cover, where it's used by medical aids now to basically say your doctor's charging you X amount, your medical aid pays that amount, that gap is covering. So those are one of the things we worked on.
Sure.
But I hated it.
Yeah.
And I think because of the service.
Yeah, because you don't really serve it.
Yeah, but I didn't know it at the time. So I was like, I went to my mom, I was like, listen, Mom, I can't do this. Mom was like, oh, but what you gonna do? My mom was like, oh, maybe go back to school. I was like, but I don't even know what I want to do right now. So then I asked, I was like, can you just let me travel? Can I just travel? And I'll get a job that I'll do that will fund my traveling. So then I got a job in hospitality, and I used to basically change states, work from states. I started as a busboy. What a busboy is, those who've worked in hospitality. I love hospitality as well, just because of the serving element.
Sure.
Is you don't speak to customers. You make sure the dishes are off the table is reset, there's water at the table, and there's bread at the table. You wipe off the table, you reset the table, there's water at the table, there's bread at the table. That is your job. You don't speak to anybody.
So that's a busboy.
Usually it was given to Hispanic people from Mexico that came to America because they didn't really speak English very well. They didn't have to. So I started there. But obviously, because I was passionate about serving.
Did you go there very young?
Yeah, that was after. Yeah, that was after working
Matric.
No. That was after working
after
in
working.
finance.
Okay,
so
sure.
I was young, but not young. Because, I mean, in corporate, I was always the youngest in the boardroom. But I mean, when I went there, I wasn't like the youngest to be on the program overseas.
Okay, sure.
I was pretty young. So anyway, I did that. And then they were like, they were drawn to me because, like I said, when I do something, I either do it to the fullest of my capabilities or I don't do it at all.
And then the work ethic, you went there with the work ethic though, or did you learn
a little bit?
Ethic? Okay.
I would say at home it was instilled to us, coming from a Zulu culture that demands respect. You must know the elders, and you when you sweep the yard, you will sweep the yard properly. If you haven't swept the yard, you're gonna get a hiding. So you're gonna check under the trees. Did I check the leaves under the tree? So that all instilled work ethic.
Sure.
If you're washing the dishes, my mom would pick up the glass and look at the glass. Did you polish the glass? That all instills work ethic. So it is definitely something that is still from home, a little bit, you know. But then I learned a lot of it in America, you know. And then, so I worked in hospitality. That's where when I met these, I mean, I serve people like Donald Trump.
Are you serious?
People, yeah, I serve people like Bruce Willis. I serve people like the Williams sisters, your Serena Williams and stuff, because I worked at the country clubs where they were members. And because I strive for excellence, and I believe in excellence at all times. And then they'll be drawn to me. I mean, and they'll maybe start greeting me, and then I think the managers will say, okay, he looks like he can build a rapport with customers. Okay, let's move him from a busboy. Let's make him the server. Server's just your waiter. You know.
Okay,
So you're not a server assistant or a busboy, which I was before. A little bit of a promotion, which is great for me. I'm like, I get to interact with amazing people.
Nice.
You know, and for me, if anything, it was to ask them maybe at the end, as I'm walking them out, to say, how did you do it? Like, you know, and to get that 2 cents for me where they will be able to, and almost all of them told me to go to school. Almost all of them. I think also it was the assumption that, you're here because maybe you're not educated or you haven't gone to school. But all of them were like, you know what, go to school. Even if you go, you get 2. And when you look these people up, these people that were members at this club, I mean, most of them were business owners. They worked in Wall Street. They ran these funds, hedge funds and things like that, you know. And they had like degrees. They had a law degree. One will have a law degree and this degree and accounting degree. That's why they can run those businesses because they've got, but that wasn't their goal. They didn't go to school because they come from the old money. They didn't go to school to become an accountant. No, they went to school because they wanted to understand accounting, how that will assist them to be able to run their businesses. You know, they had that mentality already built in. Then maybe they were in there as they were running their first business, like, you know what, if I actually knew more about law, maybe I'm spending a lot of money on my legal team.
Sure.
You know, they went back to school and they got a law degree. And then that's why they are the multi-million, billion-dollar people, you know. Not everybody followed that route, but the majority of them, they were very educated people.
Sure.
So I just knew I had to diversify my knowledge. And so after that, I came back. I was like, you know what? I think I know exactly what field I want to go to.
Yeah.
I knew I've always been good at sales. Anything. I can sell anything to anyone.
Sure.
And I'm passionate about a service, you know. I love healthcare. So I just combined that and said, how can I package this into something that I can study and then do something afterwards in terms of where I see myself in terms of running my own hustle or whether it's a company. I know when you say an empire, everyone thinks, build an empire, ha, ha, ha. Like everybody builds an empire, but you know what I mean? But how can I make it work for me where I can work for myself after? And nuclear medicine for me was the answer. And I'm still thinking. I mean, I could have chosen, now that I'm in the field, I know other opportunities that were a little bit not as work intensive and they can offer the same satisfaction. And I probably would have been still good. There's a field called clinical technology. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. No. It's a fascinating field. I discovered it not long ago. And that's a fascinating field to me.
Where is it offered?
So clinical technology is a field that's offered. I know CUT, Central University of Technology, offers it. I know that Durban University of Technology offers it. I think UJ offers it, but a lot of people don't know. And I hope what you can do is try and get some sort of, you know, we were speaking the other day. I'm going out of context. I do apologize. I hope
no, just feel free.
So I think our society also is lacking a lot when it comes to everybody just wants results, and nobody wants to put in the work and do the work. We have almost minimal career guidance and career development in this country in terms of providing kids with the necessary information of it is so sad that I cannot even express how sad it is. That to think that for me to even find out about something, I'm finding it about it 10 years after grad, and I'm like, if I knew this from it, I would have definitely gone for this.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? There's a field called clinical technology for me, which is absolutely fascinating. It's got a lot of specialities. You can specialize in neurology. You can specialize in nephrology, kidneys, dialysis. You can specialize in... So what clinical technologists are, they basically, you're not a doctor or anything. You're like a technologist, but you study clinical technology.
Sure.
But in your final year, you pick a speciality.
Okay.
But these guys are killing it. And why I'm saying that is because, again, it speaks to my line of questions that one should ask themselves. To say, okay, fine, you're going to study clinical technology. After that, yes, you work, but what happens after that? Then I start my own company. I can start my own dialysis company. And they are killing it. When I say they're killing it, those guys are writing over 3 mil for their businesses.
And you're talking that in South African context, right?
I'm talking it in South African context.
Okay.
I met guys in Free State that are driving G-Wagons and these cars, and they are killing it. And you think that they're clinical technologists, but that field has not been exposed to us. Education, you know, whoever deprived black people of education, because when you get there, when I get to Mediclinic, you see these white people and you think, they must be all doctors. No, they're not. They're not all doctors. Some of them are just clinical technologists, and they run their company. They run massive companies with big revenues, and they're just clinical technologists. All they do is do sonars, and they do ECGs. The ECGs basically, you put these electrodes on your chest and you monitor it. It's a technologist that does that. They write a lot of money because every patient that comes into the hospital must have that ECG to monitor their heart, and they can read a lot of information that can be provided to the doctor, and they can say, we can see we monitored your heart for 24 hours. They do these sleep studies where the patient goes to sleep. These are clinical technologies, but the question, all of them are white. Sadly.
And no one is talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it.
I think it's a very interesting place that we are in. because, like you're saying, there are fields now, which in a sense, all these fields we saturated doctor, because we knew that okay, this is where they were chowing the money in, and like you're saying that there's very few education for our young people to know, okay, in the health, because in health you only think of two people. So it's either a doctor or a nurse, maybe a dentist, because but the rest, it's just these three that you know, whether it's the eyes, the ears, or whatever. But I think, like you're saying, it's which is the reason why I'm having this podcast, to try to widen up the scope and having conversations, and that way at least it gets the conversation going. Like you're saying now, I believe that even the people who are going to be listening to this podcast, they will say, okay, there's clinical technologist, and I'm sure there should be other sister courses which they can get into, and we uplift ourselves as South Africans and become competent in our work. Because like you're saying, that it's not just doing the work, but it's also being competent at doing the work, because you can just be there and just receive your paycheck, but if you're not good at it, you know there's no growth. You understand what I mean? So I really liked the idea of how you were growing and meeting different people, right? And in a sense, you say what the question that I wanted to ask is, was there like competition, the growth that you were having, the competition, was it from peer to peer, or was it something which you're also enforcing from yourself, that okay, it seems like the other bus boy is doing much better, maybe let me just start working. Let's like the competition, healthy competition within the company. Was it something like that?
So generally, I'm a person that loves pressure. I thrive on pressure.
Sure.
So, and it's maybe not a good thing, because I mean, I'm not. Maybe it's not, because, for example, if people are performing, everyone is performing at 20%. I'm always going to perform at 40%. But that's not very good, is it?
I mean,
it's not very good, because if they were maybe at least performing at 90% and I found myself performing at 100, do you understand?
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, I will almost always do double of what my coworkers doing in any area of my life.
I think that's a
just
good thing.
In my nature.
That's a good thing. In a sense, as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing that there are times where you meet people who are brilliant, and they are brilliant because of those edge. That's what makes them a bit more brilliant than other people. So being brilliant, I mean, what you wouldn't be, what's the word? Feel bad for being a good guy. Here at work, there's one guy like that, and I've tried to match his work ethic, and I was like, okay, you know what? You know when you're, I don't know if you remember your high school days, when you see someone who's so good, you're like, yeah, those are the smart guys.
Yeah.
I can't really match his work ethic. Maybe it's because of what he is. I'm trying to get to him close, but I'll let us know. This guy probably this is probably how they think, and he's brilliant. His work very brilliant, and it's also sober for me to say, okay, as much as I am looking up to him, I won't be able to match his output. But the best thing that I can do is to at least try to get close to what he's doing, and in a sense, that's also learning, because that's how we learn. Maybe giving advice to someone who's listening is always link up with those who are very good. That's how you become part of those who are very good.
Very
so I'm just probably answering your question that is that a bad thing? That's a very good thing. And I think don't stop it.
But the thing is, sometimes there's no limits, and sometimes it's hard to limit yourself, because for me, you can put me in a room of brilliant people. I'm not going to know that they're brilliant. I'll probably know that, okay, they're good, but I'm always going to be double. I always have to double. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure,
sometimes you're putting a lot of immense pressure on yourself, which obviously for me comes naturally. I mean, I found myself working with there's this guy that I'm working with, is a friend of mine.
Sure.
Amazing guy.
Sure.
I learned so much. He's actually was excellent. But the more brilliant he tries to be, then I have to. Do you understand? So
Sure,
it's like,
sure.
if you put me in a round, then I'm just always gonna thrive. And
Yeah.
I like it's I thrive in such an environment where, especially if there's like a competition or something, then I'm just like I'm so happy.
It's like you become energized.
Yeah.
I think when you said that now, I just remembered the 48 laws of power. Robert Greene. The first law of power is if the person is your boss or whatever, the first law is don't never outshine your boss.
Okay.
So in a sense, for the 48 laws of power, so you never outshine your boss. Basically, that means that always make your boss look good.
Always.
You understand what I mean?
100%.
So there's nothing wrong with you being good, and in a sense, I know my pastor said something like this. Said, start a company and hire brilliant people. The reason why you're calling brilliant people is because they know how to do the work. You understand what I mean? So, in a sense, you want to be so brilliant because to finish that thought, he said, if you are the one who is good at the work, that means you will always be doing the work.
That's correct.
You understand what I mean?
I think I've heard. I'm not sure if we're listening to the same, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think I've listened to that seminar or something like that.
Yes, yeah. So, which means you want to be very good, and if you can find someone who's actually very good, I mean, like if let's say maybe probably you want to think of studying your own practices, you want to have people who are very good,
Better
so that
than
you're always learning.
Yeah.
And even in a space in our workspace, what I've noticed even with this guy that I was telling my colleague, right? So my managers sometimes they would ask for a question about, let's say, maybe a certain medicine in your thing, right? But they don't know it on top of their head, right? So they have to always go and reference in maybe Google or whatever.
Yes.
So they always ask him because chances are he has it in the top of his head. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
And for those who are listening to this, you want to be that guy.
Yes.
You want to be that guy that's your boss. If you want something quick, he knows who to talk to. You understand what I mean?
No, 100%.
So I think that's the mindset of winners. And like you said, the sky is the limit.
I think we just need to be, as South Africans, we're not hungry enough.
Sure.
And there's just this, we're lazy. I'm sorry to say, but we're lazy, and we're not hungry enough. We don't know whether we're coming or going, but that's also not our fault. I'm not going to say students that are at varsity, lambing, just going about their day, not sure what they're going to do after this course, not sure they're doing the right course. They're thinking of changing next year, switching to another course.
Yeah.
I can promise you that it's because such platforms like the one you're creating now, and even maybe more platforms, really educating people about the opportunities that are there and how they can align themselves correctly so that they tap into the right space, and then they're happy, they know that's for them. Like I said, with for example, career development, if for example, psychometric tests are done and all of these other things are done, and then on top of that, talks are done, we dive in like these where we discuss careers and we say these are the prospects, this is what you can do. Don't just think about a job, think about creating employment for other people, because ultimately that's what you want. Because if you're gonna be like a go-getter and work hard, 10 years you're gonna burn out. So essentially that's what you want to do. You want to burn out, and because anyway after the 10 years you're running your own company, right?
Sure.
Then you take a chill, you relax. So that's what we want. But we've created this society where most people, I'll just go do nursing and then I'll get a job there. Then that's when the nurses are sitting on their phone. Patient is busy needing a resusc and is panicking or needs food, or patient is dying next door but they're busy on the phone. I'm on lunch. And that's why we have that mentality at Home Affairs. So, you asked me, I think it was off air, say, would I ever move? I would move away from this country. And I think it's just the bare minimum. And as I've alluded to you earlier on, that I'm passionate about service and excellence, and that's one of the things that we lack dismally in this country.
Sure.
And you can imagine how it makes me feel every time I go to a shop, every time I go to a hospital or any place of service, and I'm slapped on my face because it's my passion. You can imagine how it makes me feel. Yes, I may not say anything about it, but my stress levels and my blood pressure is boiling inside. Because I know you can do better.
Sure.
And until we start as South Africans to demand better for ourselves, only then will our kids actually get better, and then things will start to move. So we have a long way to go as far as that is concerned. And it's just sad to see, because we're going to have, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not dissing anyone, but why are you studying public management? Why are you studying public administration? Why are you studying business administration? Why there are courses that are in universities that should not be there.
I agree with that.
There's like more than 50% of the courses. That course is not necessary. You don't need that.
Yeah.
Because anybody can do public management or computer thing.
And that time is 4 years.
And then those people will have that qualification. And you can even ask them, why do you want to do business? I don't even know, but they're funny courses. I look at them and I think this shouldn't even be on the prospectus guide. You're setting up our kids for failure. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's really, if anything, I always wish if I had money, I would literally quit my job and literally run a non-profit or something where I literally go to schools and do proper career development. I've been fortunate enough to dive into different roles and experience a lot of roles within, whether it was in corporate, now I'm in health, and I worked in hospitality as well. So I kind of have an idea of what's out there, and I'm a very curious individual, and really just to educate people that there's more, and you don't have to do public management. That's not going to help you. You're going to do it, you're going to graduate, you're going to go back. You're applying for NSFAS. Why are you studying this? And I think we need to be honest with ourselves. We, as South Africans, we're not being honest with ourselves and with our kids. We're letting people study useless degrees that are not going to help them in any way. Oh, apply for NSFAS. No, don't do that. You know?
Yeah.
So it upsets me, because, I mean, I was in Durban, I was doing my ComServe, and I would meet these students and they'll come, I'm doing admin and public.
Okay.
What is that? What are you doing? You know?
It's paperwork.
And the knowledge that we need is limited to us. And I want to go back to your point earlier on. You said, I mean, when we think of healthcare, we think of a nurse and a doctor. Oh my goodness. You know how much there is in between, above and below? And I can tell you now, the doctors don't make the most money. They don't make the most money. And I think
who makes the most money?
The critical question, it's not who makes the most money. It's not a question you should answer just so lightly. But if you're asking the question of, I want to step into a career, or I want a career I'm passionate about, or I want a career where I'll have a good living, it doesn't matter what your motivation is.
Yeah.
As long as you have enough motivation to do that to the best of your ability and excel in it, whatever motivation you have, whether it's a G-Wagon or a Ferrari, if that's your motivation and that's going to make you give 150%, take that motivation and go there. But as long as you can answer the question to say, okay, this is my career path. Okay, I'll be able to study it. Yeah, I'll get employment, but I'll be able to actually run my own business. Those are the people that are making money in hospitals, in the healthcare. I'm just because we, in hospitals. People that have their own practices, people that they don't even work. I mean, I look at my bosses. My bosses would be in Europe. The other one is in Cape Town at her wine farm. She's reporting from home. I am sweating blood and tears. Oh no, she's just replying to the emails. And yes, she's a doctor, but she's not there, because you don't actually need to be there. Do you understand? It's your business.
Yeah.
You know the business. You understand the business. You hire the right people. It runs for itself. You travel the world. You see. So we're not asking the right questions, and I think we need to be ruthless. And I would leave South Africa. I'm saying to you again, because we are so programmed to accepting mediocre. and that it's okay.
I think
For me, maybe I'm a, what do you call this? Maybe I'm more drastic. I don't think I'm drastic, but for me, I would go tomorrow as a VC,
sure,
and call all the students into a hall and ask them, what are you doing? And send the student out. Like that. That's how drastic as South Africa we need to be if we want to save this country. If we're still saying, okay, then finish this one and then apply for NSFAS, choose a better one. No, we're wasting people's time. We don't have the time. Do we have that's why this country is in debt, because people are, there's a lot of things we're doing. We need to be more drastic. And it goes to even you guys, you that mentor students or that are around students in your churches, in your you need, if you love, you need, because you're coming from the right. What are you studying? Why are you studying it? You're laughing. It's not a joke. This is your future. When you're sitting there taking the bus and you have that call center job that is not even paying you enough for you to buy a car, and you're sweating, you're going to come back to this conversation and think, I wish I had a meaningful conversation about my future and about my career. And had I changed right there and research, even if I take 2 months or whatever, take some time off or whatever, and really do proper research about where I can add value and where I can actually make a difference, but make a living, and over and above that, start my own thing, look beyond just getting a job and employment. Then we're speaking, the right questions, and we're asking and we're on the right track. So, and I think we're not drastic enough in South Africa. In America, there's no time for that. You will never find somebody that's studying business admin. There's nothing like that. Everything is very specific. They've got more, but it's very specific. I mean, I met this kid that was studying confectionery.
Okay.
Confectionery. It's like the art of decorating cakes. A degree. Okay. Maybe I'm not saying the word correctly. Confectionery, something like that.
Sure.
But it's basically, it's not even baking the cake; it's the decorating of the cake.
Sure.
But there's a market for that in America. Huge market. Yeah. That's why we have those cake baking bosses. Shows and cake bosses. There's a huge market for that.
I think I love your passion, and maybe I'll start with answering, not necessarily answering, but making the statement. Every time I meet up with students, I would always ask them, what do you want to do? And they would say, this is what I want to do. And like you were saying, that I always highlight this idea that, this I had it from my mentor. He would say that, Shepherd, work is a quarter, is it 1/3 of your life. So that's 8 to 5. So the other 8 hours you're sleeping. So which means they only have the 8 hours which you have to kind of like make out of it, make whatever that you want to do. And if you are going to be doing this the rest of your life, you need to really choose it very wisely. So I usually say that, hey guys, if you're doing this, just know that if you want to be a nurse or if you want to be an engineer, just know that you're going to be spending most of your time, like you were saying, waking up in the morning, driving to work and back, and coming back. And remember that 8 hours is actually your life. You're spending your life doing this one thing. So I try to say that so that at least they can have an idea of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And if I don't like this thing that I'm doing, I'm living a miserable life. And obviously you get the paycheck, but is it going to fulfill you? I guess purpose comes in. In a sense, we're not talking about purpose, but I feel like probably you're saying that you didn't say that this is your purpose, but you said that service jobs, it's something that you really like. And in a sense, you're saying that that's purpose without saying that it's purpose. You understand what I mean? Yeah. And for those who are listening, is your work is very much important. Choosing what you want to do is very much important. Knowing yourself and what you like is very much important to speak towards what you want to do, right? I think maybe the second...
And your why, I think your also why, is important because you may not... We discovering ourselves. I'm learning a lot about myself every day.
Definitely.
What I may like, what I may have liked yesterday to tomorrow I don't like, you know. So we're evolving. But the why is important.
Sure.
So it doesn't necessarily mean you must love or be passionate about it. I've met so many doctors who absolutely hate medicine, but their why was to pick their poverty up, their families from poverty. They knew that when they finish medical school, they guaranteed a job, and the bright future is almost guaranteed, and they guaranteed money. Their why is your why is very important.
Sure.
So, like I said, even if it's a Ferrari, if that gives you enough drive, whether you're miserable, your why, because I really, the thing of passion, the topic of passion is also one that's a bit wobbly for me, because can you find your passion? What is your passion?
It's a bit mysterious in a sense.
Yes, and not everyone is like, yeah, but I don't know, and I'm still young. But your why? Let's start there.
What do you want to do with it?
Why? Why would you want to get a job? Why? And maybe if there hopefully is a why, then it can get you.
And I think I like that, because that why speaks to asking questions, and the more we ask questions, the more we get understanding. And when you get understanding, that's where, in a sense, you light a fire within yourself to keep on pushing.
Yes.
And the second statement, like I was saying, was like what Vusitembekwa Kwa, you did mention Vusitembekwa Kwa, right? That let us not allow the talent to leave the country. So we don't want you to leave TK.
No,
he did, but he's
still
coming
got
back.
businesses, yeah.
He's coming
based
back
in Australia.
He's coming back, right? And it's very much important for you, in a sense. I understand it's an understandable position to be, that what's the point of staying here where we have people who are incompetent, and we see it with our governments, where something like eat but do the work. We are finding our politicians, they are eating but they're not doing the work. The roads are still in a mess. Hospitals are not in good conditions, and the idea is, even though you are doing your corruptions, because there's no country where there's no corruption, but let's have that thing where we say that this is our values, and that's the thing where they talked about Vargin, to say that we need to have values that we say that this is our universal value, whether it be South Africans only or Africans or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But looking at our context, we say this is our values as South Africans. We put the work first, and that mentality and shift of way of thinking, we need to really, really get these conversations going, to say that, hey guys, when you get to work, it's about putting your 100%, 110%, so that at least you know the work, number one, and that means your output. Because this is the question that I want to actually lead up to what we wanted to talking about now, right? Which is we are not taught about the importance of the weight of the things that we're handling. In my case, is if I design a electrical installation which fails, if I have a certificate or license, they can actually take it away from me. It can be revoked. And those are the things that people don't think about. Like, for example, someone who's working in the finance, they're dealing with so much money. Like, imagine if you're working for Akwele, because they are my sponsor, right?
Yes.
And you're seeing all these amounts of money of the projects that they are busy doing. It's in millions, right? And you making a mistake, it can be a mistake so big that it can cost you so many. So those are the things that we're not being told when we're growing up. We're just being told, okay, you're a doctor, but you don't know the weight of having to operate wrongly or doing whatever. You understand all those other stuff. So bringing back to you, what are the things that you feel which are like high risk stuff in nuclear medicine, which you feel like is something which probably in university they should be teaching, or maybe something which you can share, so that when they get to work, they know that, okay, these are the things which you need to have, if it's a skill or whatever?
In nuclear medicine, we do a lot. We handle needles, which you can get a needle prick injury, which can be detrimental. You can get diseases from that. So you have to work very in an orderly fashion. We deal with high radiation as well, especially iodine, and that's an isotope, iodine. And then we also deal with fluorine 18 FDG, which is for PET scans. Don't worry about the words, but it basically means it's high radiation, and it can be harmful when used in negligence. You know? So it's just taking note of. There's a lot of rules about the things that you do and touch. Take note of that. But I think the one key thing, in nuclear medicine, or basically in the health sector, to have, if you don't like people, you don't love people, and you cannot work in a team, it's not for you. There's no way around that, because one, when you step into a hospital or even a department and multidisciplinary, there's nurses, doctors, this and that. If you cannot work with people, then it's not for you. There's nothing you can change in yourself. You can't do that. It's not for you. But also, if you don't love people and I don't want to say a good heart. It sounds so Christian. But if you don't have a good heart when you see someone suffering and wanting to help them, then I don't think that's for you either. Because sadly, we see even nurses today. Patient is suffering. Hey, they're just screaming at a patient. And you're really thinking, and I wouldn't want somebody to come into nuclear medicine who couldn't take care of a patient, because I think patient care is critical. And I thrive in patient care, and I say, and I always say that, I say, I could maybe have not given the perfect injection, or maybe scanned then the perfect picture. Maybe it was 80% or 90%, but my patient care will always be over 100%. And ultimately, that's what we do in healthcare. Is even though we're treating patient care is central, and it's one of the most critical things which is service, and it even runs to all the other fields, especially with you. If you're designing an electrical system for a client, you can design the most complex electrical system that has zero faults. If you're dealing with your client and your client service is crap, and you don't know how no matter how fancy, the client may terminate the contract. Say, listen, I'm not interested anymore. Yes, but I'm just not happy.
Sure.
And you can design the most basic electrical system and give the highest patient, and that patient, the highest clients, that client will come back to you.
Sure.
Do you understand? So, and I think we need to value that as people. AI is coming in. I think AI will give better service than humans right now. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
AI is going to give better service than humans, because people just don't care anymore. Do you understand? AI, I'm sure, have a nice day. AI will say that. Have you used?
I am a big user of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I use it a lot when I'm texting people.
Yeah.
I would write something in my mind, and I think it's the way that I think, or the way I talk, because I realize that when I type the way that I talk. So I just put it on ChatGPT and ask it to make it fluent and make it sound nice. So if you read my text and you're like, oh wow, this guy's well spoken.
Oh wow.
Yeah, here too.
I like that.
Rude awakening.
Yeah.
But what I like about that is many things can be lost in translation, and I try to get the idea of what because the words sometimes fail me, and you just want to write the right text in a sense. So most of the time when I'm talking to people, especially if I'm talking to someone new, or I just write something which at least when you read it, you say, okay, I understand where this guy is coming from. This is what he actually needs from me. And I use it for other prompts as well, because since I'm doing the podcast, so I should be making captions. So I have a caption in my mind, so I just make it, clean it up, and so in a sense, because this is ChatGPT is a learning, what's the word? Is it a learning system, right? Yes. So I have trained my ChatGPT to kind of like speak to me as if we're like buddies in a sense.
Yes.
So I told it, so when you chat to me, when necessary, please put emojis. So it actually does put emojis on my text. So in a sense, my interaction with my ChatGPT is I'm trying to make it as cool as possible. Yes, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride. And unfortunately, people, for those who want to be dinosaurs, they'll come into a rude awakening that ChatGPT is not only going to stop here, it's going to be way better. Yeah. And I had a privilege I've got a chance to actually listen to the CEO and also listening to other people who are scrutinizing ChatGPT in terms of how it thinks and how it works. So my idea is to try to use the technology which is within our reach now. And like you're saying, if ChatGPT helps me to become a better engineer, which is what I'm doing now. So I've told myself that during work hours, there are times where you don't have work to do. So you need to be finding work to do in a sense. So what I'm doing in that time when I'm looking for work, so what I do now is I ask it questions of things which I'm in a sense lacking on. So let's say if we understanding transformers. So I say, okay, so I ask it even in South African context. It's like, okay, in South African context, because it's a very slow machine, right? So I ask it in South African context, so how do I connect to a transformer, in a sense, or transformer testing, right? So it give me like a short answer, and I would ask it, okay, please explain further, and just make it in a way that I would understand it. Maybe a 4-year-old would understand, depending on how the information that I want to get. So that's what I'm doing now to actually grow my career and my knowledge base using ChatGPT, because sometimes you will be using these tools for like captions, text. Yes, that's good, but can you now bring it to your business, which is your work? For me, my business is my work, right? Yes. So how do I become, like, for example, I ask questions about how do I become a better asker of questions and those things. So the nice thing about ChatGPT is it actually does almost everything. It can write an email for you. So I do those stuff to in a sense upskill myself. And there was a time when I actually tried to attempt to get ChatGPT to include a voice. So it did a code for me, but it just that there's a lot of things that are happening, but it looks like it's a very simple thing. Yeah. So I want to create my own sort of software where all the prompts that I ask, or maybe I can do a voice input, like how do you ask this question? Instead of having to type, because I have to type that. So instead of having to type, I can actually just speak it out, and then it actually picks up what I'm trying to say, and then actually answer me, not necessarily as a text, but actually be as a voice. Because the tools which are there already now, you pay for that, right? So I was like, okay, since I can probably do this. So I did find some stuff on a Chrome extension. I don't know if you use Chrome. Yes. So there's a Chrome extension there which actually reads stuff for you. So I wanted to create my own where it reads using a voice that I like, depending on which voice that is there. There's something called 11 Lab. So basically 11 Lab is, you have heard where Kanye said is coming to South Africa at some point.
Oh, yes.
That was done using 11 Lab. Nice. Recently, I sent on my status, I put a song done by Jay-Z's voice. So they actually mimicked his voice, and I put it there. So ChatGPT really is changing how things are done. And imagine now, and it's like he's rapping. Because when you're rapping, when you're speaking in there's a way that you speak, man. Yes. Speaking and singing is not the same. Yeah. So I can write the lyrics, and for the ChatGPT to know how to do the notes, the highs, the lows, that was pretty much impressive. I think after this conversation, I was actually showing you the.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes. So the I for IR that I learned today. It's gonna be rude working for those who are going to be dinosaurs, and in a sense, we have seen so many movies and we have seen so many scenarios, right? And in a sense, I guess we're not forced to go that route. I hope they create a world where you can be off the grid. And
I mean, I think essentially I love the evolution and what's AI bringing to the table, and I'm so impressed because, like I said to you, in my instance, as far as service is concerned, AI gives better service than humans.
Yeah.
Mercedes has because I have the latest Mercedes, and they integrated an AI as well.
Really?
So I speak to it as I drive. I tell it anything. It writes a text for me. It makes a call. I don't have to touch anything. I just say. And it recognizes the type of music that I like to listen to, and it will play that, and I can ask it to play the same song every time. And there's certain prompts that I also ingest. So what I'm seeing is, I think essentially what AI is going to be doing for us is that it's going to hopefully eliminate the losers that don't want to work, that are so lazy, that they don't care.
Sure.
And really we'll have people who are in those roles that love what they're doing and they're passionate about it. Otherwise, I'll pick an AI.
Yeah.
Would you rather go to ShopRite, have a lady and next and shouting at you, or would you rather have an AI that have a nice day? What would you like? Is there anything else? A bag for you? Have a nice day. You know what I mean? Sure. I would rather do have that.
I think what you're saying is. I guess those are the beauties of being human. That thing where it you see how flawed you are, seeing how flawed you are, and the human interaction and all those stuff, right? Unfortunately, the idea of having bots is not going to stop. And like you're saying, probably bots are going to be doing better surgeries than actual human beings, more precise, and all these things, they literally make our world a much better place. So we don't have to worry about many things and have to worry about, you know what I mean? 100%. So in a sense, it's a two-edged sword. Maybe that will make us go back to talking to each other. But in a sense, it's not, because there has to be people who are consuming this stuff. You understand what I mean? Mm. And the big people still have to eat. So if we're not watching whatever that they're using to, you understand what I mean?
Yes.
So coming back to service is definitely AI is going to beat us by far, because
I mean, what you just explained to me, I mean, what is way better.
Yeah. So chances are now, by type of a button, you're gonna have songs which are being generated by AI, and you can just type Jay-Z, or you can type Kanye West and Kate Franklin album, and it's actually going to give you a cover art.
That's crazy.
Because it's already doing that with the pictures. The DALL-E.
Oh, yes.
The DALL-E, where you just put a cover.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yes.
And it writes lyrics. And remember, these things, you can say, write a song on love in the style of Kanye West. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Then ChatGPT can actually try to do that.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, right now, as we're speaking, they can actually try to do that. You understand what I mean? So imagine now you have those tools, because AI is AGI. It's where we are going towards, which is artificial general intelligence, which is probably which does almost everything. You understand what I mean? So imagine you just put that prompt, because now these AIs, what they're doing is they just different stuff which are in different places. the thing that I was talking about is actually called a voice synthesizer.
Oh.
Right. So I actually tried it for myself. I did post my voice. So since I'm always talking on the podcast, so I just put a 3 minutes voice thing. So I uploaded it. So when I uploaded it, it actually sent me a voice, and I just wrote, "Okay, hi, my name is Shepard Pandeka, whatever," and then it read that to me using my voice. But now they don't have South African accents, so they only have American accents. You understand what I mean? So the only thing that I think the reason why I probably didn't give me that is because of my plan. I didn't pay for the plan, so probably it was still in the free version. Maybe if I pay, but the thing is, either way, that's what they said. They said that the plans they don't have the other accents. So imagine if they were to have other accents. So which means being a content creator now, it becomes very easy. Which it is already is, because right now you can actually get scripts. You can create a script from, I don't know, who's your favorite podcaster? Let's say maybe Penwell or McG. You understand what I mean? Yes. You get a script from them and say, okay, can you please create a script from them, and then rewrite it as if it was mine. So now you create content reading from the script, which you just created using their template. You understand what I mean? So if there were lazy people, they're just going to be more lazier because of AI. And the thing is, you just don't know how it's going to affect us as human beings. You understand what I mean? And I don't want to be preachy, but yeah, it looks like the world is coming to a place where we have never been before. Yeah. And if God just comes and takes his people, yeah, that's going to be something else as well. You understand what I mean?
Rapture, yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many things happening at the same time. Ukraine war, Russia, China partnering with Russia, the US trying to make a nuclear war. Because I mean, that's literally almost happening if we're not careful. Yeah. And we're just continuing with our lives here, worrying about.
Like nothing happened.
You understand what I mean?
I think that's what also is a bit crazy about the world we're living. Is this, like I said, people don't care. So much is happening. I think if this would have happened 30 years ago, what's happening now?
Yeah. Would have been
the world probably would have stopped. Let's just say, what is happening? Because people cared. So generally, I think we've promoted, being careless and just.
I think the other thing is we are too much in a rat race to worry about what's happening globally. Because you are thinking of, what am I gonna eat tomorrow? And you think of your next paycheck. What is it going to do? What are those plans that you want to do? You want to get a new sound bar, a new PlayStation, new clothes, new sneaker. And to think that Russia and China, they are doing what? That's the least of my problems. You understand what I mean? Yeah. But I think this is probably one of my favorite podcasts, because you talked how you want to talk, and thank you so much for the passion. And it's what makes that nice is the type of guest that I like. I really love guests who will talk their mind, and we discuss ideas, and it shows that you have been in America.
No, at least I don't have an accent.
Yes, I was about to go to that. I think we'll talk about that off air, right? Yeah. But the way that Americans love talking about their story and sharing their ideas out there without having to worry about filtering themselves. Because what I've realized here with my guests is they filter themselves. They want to sound almost perfect. Yes. And it hides the actual conversation, how conversation goes. This is how conversation goes. If you were to meet someone like randomly, this is how you'll be speaking. Yeah. And thank you so much, man, TK. No, man, it was really nice. And next time we come back to Cape Town, I would always want to have you around and be a friend of the podcast. And if you have friends even here in Cape Town, we're doing clinical technology.
I don't know anyone
you can
in
reference.
Cape Town,
Yeah,
yo.
I know.
That's doing
But
it,
I mean, those are people in your own cycle.
Yes.
But if they are around, just direct them this side so that I can just have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, that we're trying to get the conversation going, and if we can have people who are more competent, and even though you're not competent, but at least striving to know more, striving to do better in your own space, and that competition and competence that probably the Americans have, it would be some probably a culture that we can have as South Africans, and be proud of saying that we are hard workers. This is what when we want to do something, we do it. And I had the privilege of talking to Penwell, and he said the reason why we are not at the place we are in now is because we don't have common values. So if we don't have common values, that means we can't build the same thing. That's correct. Someone will say that, no, give me that SASSA money, I'll just have babies. You understand what I mean? So they're depending on that grant. You understand what I mean? But if we have the same values, of like, okay, we want to be proud of our work. If you're a present, we held you into accountability. If that's the right word of using. Yes, what I mean. Yeah. Yes. So all those stuff, it counts back to the country that we want to have. And Penwell actually had what's this guy, Thokozani, on his podcast, and he was saying the same thing, that guys, let's stop with the old way of doing politics, the old way of doing things. If there's work that needs to be done, let's do the work.
Exactly.
Let us not trying to do all this other stuff. And
let's focus on the work.
It brings back to, I guess Penwell is probably one of the guys who's championing that kind of thought.
Yes.
And Vustembukwai said that if there's something wrong with the product Yawotaki, or even if it's a white man, let's not stop buying from him. Let's correct him. Let's continue buying there and say, hey, my man, you made a mistake. Please improve for next time.
Then it means we must also be a willing society, willing to learn.
To learn and teach each other. That way we in a sense, we're creating the same values, and we're growing as a country. And our country is basically starts from a family to community. You understand the logic. You understand what I mean? No, but thank you so much, TK. I think this is what I always give my guests a chance to advise someone out there who's listening to this and say, whatever that's coming into your mind, whether you want to, I don't know what you want to say, but just say something that can encourage someone who's listening to this.
I think in everything, just in conclusion, I would say, there's the Prime Minister, the first female Prime Minister of the UK, and I remember reading the book. She said something very powerful, which I think in most of my life I've used this. She says, watch your thoughts, for they become your words. And then she says, watch your words, for they become your actions. Then she said, watch your actions, for they become your habits. Then she says, watch your habits, for they become your character. She says, watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So what we think, we become. It's that simple. I think if I can quote the Bible, it says the exact same thing, just differently. But what you think is what you're going to become. Yeah. So whatever's going through your mind right now, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, what you think is what you become. And it starts in the thoughts, and then you speak it in words. And the minute you speak it in words, you start acting it. You do it more than once. It's your habit. And that becomes your destiny because it forms part of your character.
Wow. I think that's the best way to close the podcast. Thank you so much for coming through. And thank you.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.